Nice.
The throne. How about that PugCast?
Okay. All right, guys. Anyone have any questions about anything? I'll be happy to answer.
Yeah. What do you do to actually get onto the Olympic team? Like, are there like a tryout week or something?
Yeah, that's a good question. So it's very similar to World Championships last year, which is you take the best 4 races of distance or skate, or the best 2 races of 4, and then you add the points up. So it's all points based. So for this year, we have 2 Super Tour weekends before U.S. Nationals, starting in the first week of December. So we have a sprint race, a distance race, and then the following weekend, another sprint, another distance. And then we have 1 week of U.S. Nationals in January in Alaska, and they have 2 sprint, 2 distance, and then whoever has the highest points for sprinting or distance gets picked to the Olympics, and they'll probably choose like 3 or 4 guys and 2 or 3 girls, like based on the list. Yeah.
Is it totally separate criteria for sprint and distance?
Mostly speaking, they'll choose sprinters for sprinting, distance for distance. So
What if you're like a 5K specialist?
for girls, that'd be distance. But I mean, some people switch it up, but mostly speaking, the sprinters will be better at sprinting than distance.
Is there a 5K
No.
The relay.
Yeah, there's a relay. But. And then there's some discretion by the U.S. ski team political committee. They will like pick who they want to go depending on past results or future anticipated results or something like that.
Color of your eyes.
Yeah. Yeah.
What do you classify yourself as?
Distance for sure, but I'm trying to get better at sprinting. So I had 1 good sprint last year. So if we can get a few more.
When you were coming out of high school, going to college, and looking at different schools, what kind of criteria did you have in mind when you were choosing?
Well, I wanted to ski in college, but primarily it was for academic reasons.
Okay.
I looked at St. Lawrence, UVM, Middlebury, and Dartmouth, and then kind of spoke with the coaches, checked out the campuses. I liked Middlebury the most, so I tried to just talk to the coaches there. And because I was a public high school skier, the coaches don't really know how that like transfers into the rest of the population, so we didn't really know if I was actually like decent or not. So he didn't have too much pull at all, but it was just more about feeling out what feels right, like academically. Obviously, skiing, you can make any team a good fit for your skiing if you train hard enough. But also, I kind of connected well with the coaches there, so feeling out the campus and the academic programs that you're interested in as well, because skiing doesn't last forever. You know?
Did you go directly from high school to college, or did you take
Yeah, I thought about taking a PG year at GMBS, but I decided to go straight to college.
Okay.
Pretty happy I did that.
And was your experience skiing in the NCAA circuit a positive one?
Oh yeah, I would never want to go pro out of high school. I mean, obviously I wasn't that good anyway, but I think college is really important because you can become a really good skier in college. I know a lot of the U.S. ski team sometimes doesn't think that college is the best choice, but I think it's really good for skiers, and you kind of mature at a more personal level as well, and you just learn more about responsibility and time management skills that can carry on to skiing and past skiing too. How many of you guys are looking at colleges so far? Yeah.
For kids.
Yeah.
How about this? Looking back at where you are now, what would you change in terms of your training and your approach to skiing? And like, oh, when I was 18 or 19, I wish I had done this differently or done that differently.
I guess I wish I trained a bit harder in high school, but I just didn't know enough about it. And the coaches I had didn't know really enough about high-end training. But it's hard to say. I was also trying my best back then too, so it's hard to say. But definitely, like the level of training once you reach a higher college or professional level is so much more than like what I thought in high school. I mean, it's a full-on lifestyle. So I guess I couldn't have done it anyway in college or high school. Yeah.
Was there like a 1 year where it jumped all of a sudden, or was it like really steady? Like after college, it all of a sudden?
kind of when I started college, I think going into my junior or sophomore year of college, I took a summer in Sun Valley and kind of like trained with the ski group there, and I kind of learned like what actual skiers train and how they train. And that kind of made a big jump, but I'd never really trained that much in college until my senior year. I only hit like 650 hours my senior year, I think. But for some of the top college guys, they're hitting 800 to 900. So I mean, it's kind of all, it's not all about numbers, but at some point, like if you're not hitting 800 hours, you're not going to be competitive on the World Cup. So it's kind of, I don't know. I don't like thinking just about hours, but at the same time, there's a level where you just have to be training a lot to be competitive. But there are some guys on the World Cup that can train a little bit less, and that's just genetics and training programs, and still be competitive. But
did you go to college with Chase?
yeah, I was skied on the team with Chase Marston. He was my captain for 2 years. Good guy.
When you went last season, skied on the World Cup, and like once you got to like the World Cup venue, did that make you really nervous? Like, do you think those nerves bugged you racing, or do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it's really weird to like see Nordic and Sundby like warming up next to you. That was really strange. It's also different snow in Europe. It was way wetter and a lot of man-made, and the skis that ski well in the U.S. don't ski well in Europe. So like they have a whole fleet for Europe races and a fleet for U.S. races. So it was a challenging way to wax skis. And I didn't race very well there. And the courses think of the hardest course in the U.S. and double it. Like, it's just, the hills are just different. Like, the steepest hill out here is like a standard hill in Europe. It's just different racing. And it's weird, they only do one track per classic in an individual start race, so people don't switch lanes too much, so that to like not have them skate. So it was just one track around the whole course, which was super weird as well. But yeah, it's just like being at the venue, getting used to the like racing at 2 p.m. is not fun. It was just a lot of changes for sure to get used to. And then obviously like seeing the best skiers in the world makes you pretty nervous and kind of overthink things and stuff. So pretty fun though to be there with them. Yeah.
Have you ever worked with a sports psychologist? The reason that I'm asking, when I read articles on faster skier, a lot of these people emphasize the mental side of skiing.
Yeah, I've never worked personally with a sports psych, but I've done a lot of reading and research and kind of listening to like what other high-end athletes do, and I found that like self-talk, like positive self-talk mid-race is exceptionally useful. So like if you're in a race and feeling the pain and like start thinking about your competitors or what they're doing, or then you're not gonna do that well. You have to like stay focused on what you need to do, because you can't change what anyone else is doing. You have no control over some other racer. All you can do is like focus on your skiing, your technique, and then like tell yourself like I can do this over and over and over again, and you'll go faster for sure. I do that a lot.
Is that something you picked up later in your career?
Yeah, like last year I started really using it, and I mean I've thought about it a bit, but the mental game, like especially like in high school, you guys probably don't think too much about it. It's very natural. But once you get into college, you'll start thinking more, and it becomes a bit more like, just like when you're racing, I don't know, I had never thought about this in high school. It was so natural to race, like, you just go as hard as you can, but then when the races become like an hour and a half, and then you just have way too much time, and you worry about results or whatever, you just have to like bring it back to your skiing and focus on what you can do, and then being positive. Like if you get negative thoughts through your head, you gotta get them out as fast as you can, because they'll slow you down for sure.
The day before a race, or maybe you're traveling to a venue or something, what's your usual plan for as far as like skiing the course, what you're eating?
Yeah. So we usually try to get to a venue, 4 days at least in advance. For you guys, it's probably a bit different, but you definitely want to ski the course, know the course. Maybe think about, when you're skiing, think about where you can make moves, where someone else might make moves, where to get rest, where to push over the tops of hills. You want to do like For the pre-race, I do a little bit of threshold usually, just to kind of clear out some lactic acid, get the body used to building and clearing lactic acid. Doing some speeds, just like quick, short stuff. The workout will be like an hour 15. Maybe go for a jog that evening and like stretch out a lot. Definitely hydrate. What's really important is eating right after your workout, like the week leading up to a race, because you want to have your glycogen stores like topped off all the time. So if you do a workout and then you like wait an hour to eat, you're just setting yourself up for disaster. Carbo loading the night before is a myth. What real carbo loading is eating right after workouts, like a fair amount of food. So if you want to ski well, you need to eat right after a workout. But obviously you want to eat pretty healthy the night before as well, and then the morning of I try to do like protein and complex carbs, and a little bit of fat too, especially for like the 30K and 50K races. You want to get some fat and protein in. Staying hydrated, and then just, morning of, everyone's usually pretty nervous, but you just want to stay focused. I like to stay calm. Some people like to get really amped up, listen to some pumped up music. I find that makes me too excited in the warm-up, and then I waste all my energy and I'm tired on the start line. So I like to stay like relatively calm up until the race and get my adrenaline mid-race, but it works differently for different people. So I just try to stay focused and kind of go in thinking about my technique, like dialing in your skis, with your coach, get the wax right, so you feel comfortable. You don't want to be guessing your skis in the race, because you're not going to do well ever. You need to know that your skis are good. So stuff like that. Stay focused.
Which one do you prefer, skate or classic?
Classic. I'm trying to get better at skate, but I'm a lot better at classic skiing. So.
What do you think about all the changes they're doing with like striding only zones and stuff?
It was weird. When I was at the sprint in Drammen, they had a striding only zone, and it was, it's kind of good because it stops people from double pulling, but it's weird. Yeah, I don't know how it's gonna keep going, because people can double pull everything now.
Yeah.
But then they make the hills like so incredibly steep that you can't double pull them fast. So I don't know. It's just changing the course profiles really.
What do you think is the biggest difference in between like skiers that are getting up on the podium in the World Cup and like when you're a few minutes back? Like, what do you notice those guys do the most? Is it like their strength?
They're strong.
Technique?
I think it's strength and endurance. Like, to hold the technique they're holding for 2 hours, they're so incredibly strong. Like, I have no realm of understanding of how strong those guys are. It's absurd. And then, off the starting line of the Holmenkollen, I was sprinting and getting dropped, and they held that pace for 2 hours. It's insanely crazy how fast those guys can go. Part of it's skis, but it's not that much. It's just like racing in that environment. They're all used to going that fast, I think, all the time. And their technique, like, they glide probably twice as much as me for every stride. You just have to get more distance with every stride, and their technique is pretty flawless, and it allows them to ski really fast with pretty little energy. But they also can just go so fast. It's scary. Like, it's terrifying. Yeah.
How prevalent do you think performance-enhancing drugs are?
Yeah, they're dopers, for sure.
Yeah, and what do you think that they should do about it, or how?
They're doing the best they can, but the dopers are always a few years ahead of the ways to catch them. And then there's always like the gray areas, kind of like taking a ton of albuterol for like inhalers, and but when you're on the starting line, there's people doping, but I don't know. Like, they test the top guys so frequently. I think they tested like Ustikov like 7 times in 5 days during the tour. So they're doing what they can, but yeah, some of those guys are doping for sure. It's just part of sport now, which sucks, but you can't really do anything about it. You just try to race as fast as you can, but it's out there, so, which is unfortunate.